Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Shadow Labyrinth. Despite the name, Shadow Labyrinth is actually a reimagining of Pacman. Yes, that Pacman, as odd as it may seem. So keep in mind that they're definitely trying something different as we go over the gameplay. The gameplay of Shadow Labyrinth falls into the genre of 2D metroidvania, so expect to backtrack at points when you get certain abilities to open new pathways. And like with the usual for this genre, you'll want to take note of areas that are inaccessible as a result. Fortunately, this is a modern game with modern conveniences like map markers and landmark indicators to show you things you should revisit. As for combat, your bread and butter is your sword. With it, you'll be able to perform combos or parry. Your attacks also can be augmented by items you can equip and upgrades you can purchase. You'll also get some traversal abilities, of course, and using your companion Puck, you can enter a mini Puck mode on certain rail segments and a sort of callback to the original Pacman. All in all, it's pretty much following the standard for a game of this genre. So how is the story? Is it a standout at all? The story throws you into the unknown right away. You'll control number 8, a soul enlisted by the yellow drone Puck to help reclaim the alien planet you are on. Puck is your guide as well as fighting companion, and together you'll uncover some memories once lost to number 8. Surely it won't be so easy to achieve our goals, right? But now the question still stands. Pause or repeat?
Pacman is back. Or is it? Because can you really call this Pacman when it's so vastly different from the Pacman that we really know?
Yeah, you know, Henrik, this is what happens when Pacman gets tired of chasing fruit and starts chasing existential dread, right? You know, Shadow Labyrinth feels like Pacman dropped acid, got imprisoned in space, and then woke up thinking he's like in a Metrovania game. I don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I guess he's been hanging out with good old Samus Aran a little too much, you know, getting lost on a alien planet. Literally, the premise just entirely feels like a Metroid game. But you're not playing Samus the bounty hunter. You're playing just some random swordsman who just gets woken up, not really knowing what you got to do. But you got your companion, you know, Puck, the Pac-Man guy, and he's going to tell you what you got to do.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the combat, I mean, did this feel satisfying to you, Chris? Did you feel like every time you killed something, you were like, yes, I did something?
Yeah, I mean, when you play as the swordsman, he's like a dude with a prosthetic Winter Soldier arm and a giant sword and a floaty orb friend, as you reference Puck, which is suspiciously close to Bucky, I gotta say. So is that a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe Marvel lawyers are probably typing as we speak. Don't you think, Henrik? I mean, I think the gameplay is, you know, it's fluid, moves fast. You know, it's definitely got that 2D platformer that it's all there, but I don't know. I mean, how were you kind of vibing with this in a sense?
So the thing is, Metroidvanias are like very, very many of them are out there, and very good ones at that. You know, obviously the name of the genre references Metroid and Castlevania, like the Symphony of the Night style Castlevania games.
Yeah.
And those two by themselves, you know, Symphony of the Night, and especially if you were to even go for like the latest Metroid game in this style, Metroid Dread, those are like the gold standard of what Metroidvania games should be like.
Yeah.
And does this do it justice? Well, to some extent, yes, I'd say it actually does. You know, especially it being a reimagining of an old IP that hasn't really been touched in forever. They did a pretty good job of, you know, integrating the idea of Pac-Man into a Metroidvania,
but I also think
pretty satisfying.
But I also think it is also important to let the gamers know too, Henrik, that this is technically a follow-up to Secret Level, the anthology from Amazon Prime, which means the lore is deep, or at least confusing enough to pretend it is, right? I mean, it's totally random. I mean, Pac-Man is trapped. You're chosen. There's a war, possibly a galactic, possibly emotional. Either way, I don't know. Every time I was playing this game, I kept thinking about, you're a horror fan, so you're going to love this, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So Shadow Labyrinth could spiral into the madness, right? You know, it's always like, you know, the game Steamboat Willie, you know, is being, you know, into like this new, you know, first-person shooter. You know, we're starting to see more of this start to stand out. We understand that Pac-Man has been locked inside an arcade cabinet since the early days, right? 1980s. It gives off that, retro futurism that, we're soon to see with Marvel's Fantastic Four first step. You kind of see glimpses of them, trying to have that old school nostalgia, but try to keep it futuristic for a newer audience. Will that pan out? Does that work out?
I mean, at the same time, though, you see this in all the genres of media nowadays. I was actually just having a conversation with my girlfriend about this last night. How so many movies are, the successful ones are just sequels or reboots. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of depressing because that means we're not really getting anything that's successful. That's like a new idea entirely. And it's the same thing with games. I know you love remasters and reboots.
Yeah,
Chris.
exactly. Ooh,
And the unfortunate thing is they do make money. That's why
That's
they
true.
make them. And this is kind of a similar thing. It's kind of like you can consider this almost a reboot of Pac-Man. Now, do you think that they did a good job in kind of reintroducing the IP, or do you feel like they should have just left it as its own idea and not tried to tie in Pac-Man at all? Because
Well, I
I
do.
almost felt like it was a
Yeah.
little shoehorned in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, 110%. That's absolutely how I feel as well. I do appreciate that we're trying to do something a little bit different. Like, I totally understand. In Shadow Labyrinth, you're gonna slash, you're gonna dodge, absorb enemies like you're some roided out Kirby. You're gonna be spending aura to boost attacks or unlock that sweet ESP bar, and those are all things that are very different and trying to reinvent the wheel in a sense for maybe a modern audience like Gen Alpha or whatever the hell we're gonna call them next. And
Those who don't even know what arcade cabinets are.
yeah, exactly. But like, you can't slip up in this game though. Like, I mean, these checkpoints are stingier than a gotcha pull, and if you die, back to the beginning, scrub. I mean, I think that's the toughest thing
You know
for
what I'm
me.
going to say here, Chris?
God damn it.
That's
All
a
right.
skill issue. And that is
though.
literally a skill issue.
But did you
But
also
it's
spend
also
90%
like
of your aura on upgrades and then 10% crying on those checkpoints, or the lack of?
Well, you know what, Chris? I'm kind of used to that sort of experience from Metroidvanias because a lot of them are pretty unforgiving. I mean, look at even a lot of games in the Metroid series can be pretty difficult, where you'll go maybe like 20, 30 minutes without a checkpoint. And then if you die on a boss, you get booted all the way back to that save station.
Yep.
Same thing with a great example would be Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is not an easy game by any means.
Well, I guess
And,
Elden Ring is
it's
helping us
just
build
kind of the
tougher
genre.
yeah, no, you're absolutely true about all of that. But like, even like the artwork too. Like, I don't know about you, Henrik. Like, I understand they were trying to do like a, like I keep saying, retro futuristic approach. But
Yeah,
it kind of does feel a little low budget though, in a sense. But it's weird.
no, it definitely does.
It
Yeah,
kind of.
it feels like they didn't put any budget into the art style almost.
Well, to me, I was kind of giggling when I was looking at the art direction because it's kind of like part Tron, part cereal box maze, and a very big shift in Namco's direction to introduce a phase where like every classic icon is getting a dark reboot. And I mean, someone's got to keep their eye on Tetris next. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like we have to go fight off some blocky dude. That's like a character, you know what I mean?
Or here's an idea. It's the thing that's dropping the blocks that we go fight.
Yeah, or we have to like dodge it as we're trying to climb up the hill like Peak. You know what I mean? It's like, no, but like, look, I respect what Namco's going for, but like Shadow Labyrinth feels like it's trying to evolve Pac-Man into like a Souls-born protagonist, and I don't know if we're ready. I really don't. I mean, yeah, the boss fights are tough, save points are rare. Yeah, I'm gonna still bitch about that. Gameplay can be surprisingly addictive, but the whole thing screams skill issue if you're not locked in. Okay, so is it worth that run? Maybe even two if it lands on the Game Pass or on sale. But like for now, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's a soft pause. It's kind of like hovering over the, let's resume play.
Okay.
But I'm not quite ready to commit on this one. What do you say, Henrik?
Yeah, this, unfortunately, it's a solid game, but it really feels more like a very low budget indie game more than anything else.
Yeah.
And even in the genre of Metroidvania, there's better games out there to go spend your money on that are always going to be on sale or always just a few bucks to put down to play. And because of that, it is a pause for me. But, you know what? I appreciate them trying something different because
Yeah.
not a lot of times do you see something so vastly trying to take a different approach to things, a risk, where they're going to take an old IP and completely reimagine it to a whole different genre.
Yeah.
I appreciate
what
that.
the hell's going to be next? I have no idea. Let's get a Luigi's Mansion, but more in a mature Resident Evil style. What do you say, gamers?
I don't know if Nintendo would be so okay with that. But.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, well, they were willing to bring the Resident Evil franchise over to their, GameCube at the time.
Yeah, but you're not touching their classic characters.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Very, very true. But hey, we want to know from you, the gamers, have you played Shadow Labyrinth? Is this a pause to play something new or a repeat for endless fun? Let us know what's good.